So I've got a first draft of my book that I'm happy with and I'm happy to share with people now. Um, so, you know, what does that mean? What's the next steps for me? Well, I do want to pursue getting the book published, and I want to see, if there's any interest in, going down the traditional publishing route. I'm very aware that I'm incredibly ignorant of the whole real business of publishing and you know getting a book published, that process. So obviously, the kind of key route that most people take is finding a literary agent and working with them to hopefully um, eventually make a deal with a publisher. But that's a long process. There's a lot involved. There's a lot of refining the manuscript, and kind of um, you know kind of sparking up a relationship with someone who's going to act as your agent, and kind of having that reciprocal um, working agreement where you sort of work together to make publishing your book and a reality. And also kind of, if you're new like I am to publishing, if this is a debut novel, launching a career essentially, because it's in your mutual interest that this is not just a one-off thing. So yeah. For better or for worse, I have now submitted my first query. Um, you know, it was a real kind of difficult process for me to um, find an agency and an agent who I thought matched, fairly well with the kind of novel that I've written, and tailor a query to that agent. And I'm well aware that one query is not really necessarily going to yield a great response, but you have to start somewhere. And I think that's the thing. You can overthink these things a lot, and you do want to put a lot of thought and kind of treat it like a lot of people, when you read up about it, a lot of people say, treat it like you're going for a job that you really, you really want, and is something that you want to pursue, put a lot of energy into it, and kind of make it relevant basically, to what, to the agency and what you're trying to achieve in general. So yeah, it's quite a good feeling to have that done. First query out, and we'll see where that goes. I suspect it's going to be a long process of months, if not years, of querying. Having potential initial meetings with people, and kind of eventually, if I'm fortunate enough, signing with an agent. But we'll see how that goes. I think one of the things I haven't really talked about a lot is the content. Horrible term to use. The story, the characters in my novel, and I've kind of been reluctant to reveal too much. But I think it'd be good to kind of give anybody who's watching this, if there is anybody watching this, a kind of a feel for the kind of book that I'm writing. So there's several main characters in the book. The book centers around a monk who is sort of a quietly confident kind of person, and we quickly learn that one of their loves is dancing, and that's something they used to do to raise money for the monastery that they're a part of. And we also quickly learn that there's more to this monk that meets the eye. And the book starts in a prison deep inside a mountain, where the monk and some other of the main characters have been imprisoned for new crimes that are invented by the rulers of their homeland, as part of a big project called the reorientation. So yeah, that's just a real brief intro to the book. It's a young adult fantasy book, so it features all kind of good stuff like magic and mythical kind of beings, and mysticism and all kinds of subject matter like that. But also, there's what I've tried to do is put characters into the book who are not sort of like representations of my own personality, although obviously there's going to be little things that are reflected in the book and the narration of the story, and kind of really develop and work on those characters. And that's what kind of helped the story to unfold, is having these characters and working out where they're coming from and sort of how they might react to the various situations they're in, and thinking about what they're thinking and feeling, and kind of really trying to get that out on the page. So yeah, it's kind of a journey into their lives, who they are, trying to introduce these people. And this book, The Dancing Monk, my first book, sets the stage for a whole series of books set in this world that revolve around the characters that we meet throughout the course of this first book. So yeah, that's kind of some of the background of the story, and yeah, I hope it's something that people are interested in and are going to want to read. And I just hope that I can do a good enough job representing the story, which I think, and the characters, which I think sort of, are certainly the strongest sort of bit of writing that I've done. I hope that I can do a good enough job of representing that, and in the queries that I send out, such that somebody out there hopefully might agree that with me about the strength of the characters and the story. Am I writing enough to take a chance and yeah, look, kind of pursue helping me publish my book. So yeah, I'm optimistic about it. It's been it's hard work. I work full time. I have other things that I do in my life, and as I mentioned a couple of videos ago, I've been having a few little health issues, nothing too major, but just one or two things that has meant that progress has been held back even more perhaps than it would. And yeah, just finding the energy to kind of do these things is a real challenge. But it's what's helped me is the fact that I've really enjoyed writing the story and kind of getting it to this stage. And now that I'm not writing, eventually I'll start writing the sequel to this book. But now that I'm not writing, it kind of I want to get back to it. I want to kind of and I'm sort of the ideas are churning away in my mind about where the story's going, and the future sort of story arcs with characters and everything. But I think it has been good to take a step back for a while, and work on things like the editing and just the querying process. So yeah, that's a quick update about where I'm at with everything. I hope you join me in the next video.